to today's session on logbook and certification of skill. I think this is the most demanding session from starting, that what to do in the logbook, how to certify the skill, and what to do, what not to do. So today we have Dr. Richa Thaman, Dr. Neeraj Mahajan, and myself, Dr. Chinmay Shah. So I am handing over session to Richa ma'am. So over to you, ma'am.
Thank you, Chinmay. And it's a privilege. Yeah. Good evening, everyone. And it's such a privilege to be collaborating with all the physiologists to share and discuss as we build up every week and together clear the picture of competency based medical education, especially in our field of physiology. Uh, it, it is in this sordid COVID era, the pursuit of better academics must continue. And one such short step is the discussion on induction of logbooks for undergraduate medical students. I am Dr. Richa Thaman. I am professor in physiology at SGRD Medical Institute, Amritsar, and I have my colleagues with me, Dr. Neeraj Mahajan, who's associate professor, NHL Municipal Medical College, Ahmedabad, also co-convener of the Nodal Center, and Dr. Chinmay Shah, who's Associate Professor, GMC Bhavnagar, who's also coordinator of the MEU. And this model that we'll be discussing, module that we are going to discuss, this aims to create a standard protocol for documenting the achievements of selected competencies listed in the CBME UG curriculum. And the instructions are only guidelines for colleges and universities and can be adapted and modified as per the requirements. I think most of us at our places have tried to design the logbooks before the logbook from the MCI came over. We tried to design one logbook at our institute, and later on different medical schools in Punjab, the faculty sat together and they started designing their own logbooks. So I think everybody will have a different, slightly different modified kind of a logbook, but what exactly are the components of the logbook needs to be discussed. So we'll be discussing the logbook, and the objectives for the session are, next slide please. Yeah. The objectives of the session are that after the end of the webinar, the audience should be able to, number one, define what is logbook. Number two, develop a logbook, the process. Number three, document key predetermined competencies and differentiate between what is logbook and portfolios. So these are the basic four objectives which we will be discussing. After the end of the session, which will be taken by Dr. Neeraj, the session will be open for the question answer round, with Dr. Chinmay will take over. And then lastly, we'll take up the best practices that have been adopted by different medical institutes. So 2 or 3 faculty can come forward and share with us any best practices they have employed as far as the logbook is concerned. So next, to discuss the PPT, I'll hand over the session to Dr. Neeraj Mahajan. Dr. Neeraj Mahajan, please.
Thank you, Dr. Richa. Thank you, Dr. Chinmay and Dr. Bedi sir, and dear participants. Namaste to all. So we are directly starting, and our first objective is how we can define logbook. So we will have this official definition, or you can say a big or detailed definition. But before that, let me come to a smaller definition. If you remember this movie, you can say Rancho definition, how we can understand. So basically the logbook is a verified record of learning activities, especially, as Dr. Richa said, selected and most important competencies of skill domain and ADCOM domain. So it's an official record. What activities or what selected competencies the student has learned. Now, with this background, now see what we can see as far as detailed definition is concerned. So we can say Chatur definition. I mean, everything is put and to make it complete or completely official. So it goes like this. It is a verified record of the progression of the learner, documenting the acquisition of the requisite knowledge, skill, attitude, and or competencies. So basically all domains, but practically we will focus mainly on the most important skill domain competencies, which are labeled as P or performance, and also ATCOM competencies. Some newer element will also be included. So this is the definition. In short, we can say that are selected competencies, and for competencies, many activities will be derived. So those activities will be officially recorded in logbook. It's a verified official record. So this is basically our first objective, or you can say definition. But two logistics are so important that I decided that let me put it in definition itself. And the first is its flexibility. So as Dr. Richa also said that these are guidelines, but then local condition is best learned or known to the local teacher. So he can have that flexibility in many ways. And first way is that the logbook can be physical or can be electronic, can be subject wise or can be phase wise. So this is as per institute and teachers to decide and take this call, what they want, keeping feasibility in mind. And basically we will see is that this flexibility aspect come at many points. And then, of course, a student can say, okay, good idea, but I am already very busy. My schedule is busy. So it may be a good idea, but I am not interested. Right? Suppose he say that just in humor. So we can say, listen me, the second point of logistic, and maybe you can change your mind. So second logistic point is that submission of logbook is essential or prerequisite for taking final exams. It's needed for final exams. Only when logbook is completed successfully, the student can give university exams. So we are having these two logistic points. And with that, our first objective is completed. I hope it is clear. And we are coming to second objective, that is the process or how we can develop a logbook. So we will do it on 4 points, but these 4 points are very well there in terms of main heading in third objective as well. So we are having, you can say, by and large, we are starting the major part of this session, that is objective number 2 in particular, but that already covers majority of the objective 3 also, that is documentation, how we will document the competencies which we have selected. So that part will automatically be covered, but then we will take the third objective separately also. Things will be reinforced, revised, and that will come in form of what we call log table. But let's see the first, that is how we can develop the logbook, the process on 4 important points. The first point is in the process that what competencies should be selected to be logged. We are having approximately more than 100 competencies. So what competencies, for example, we are having, if we see the RS competencies, we are having these RS competencies, PY 8.6, 8.7, 8 and 10 also, and these are related to respiratory, peak expiratory flow rate, spirometry, RS examination. We are having this 5.12 competency regarding pulse and blood pressure. So then so many key competency, knowledge competency, we are having so many know-how competencies, we are having show-how competencies, and we are having, you can say, topmost part of show-how or labeled as performance or P competency. P competency in the physiology is somewhere between 10 to 15, I think to be precise 13. So out of these know-how, show-how, and P, four type of competencies which we are having, which competency needed to be logged? So we are having all P competencies. Definitely yes, must be in the logbook. Selected show-how competencies, you can take a call and you can decide to enter some show how competency as well. So first, all P competency, we will say must be logged. Selected show how competency can be logged, while knowledge or K or KH competencies best to be avoided. Best to be avoided. Already we are covering in the theory classes and we are already giving a lot of emphasis, and by and large no activities or experiential learning is associated with K and KH competencies. So they are best to be avoided unless and until they are very much indicated for some P level competencies. Then and then we will think, otherwise, practically we will not enter K and KH competency. We can select some, you can say, small number of asset competencies, but all P competencies should be there in the log. So this was our point number one, which competency to be logged. We are moving to in the process point number two, and point number two is that activities, every competency now need activities, like we need make a say objective. Same way, I mean, suppose we are having the competency of blood pressure and pulse, then we will give some activity to complete that competencies. One activity may be record the blood pressure, other activity may be record the pulse, other activity may be the give say adcom part indications or other things related to communication to the uh, student for subject. So we may decide activities based on competencies. Some competency may have just one activity. For example, say spirometry, and we can have one activity that he should able to do the spirometry or say vital capacity of the given subject in sitting and standing position. This may be the activity. So this competency may have one activity. Some competency are clubbed together and they may require two or three activities. Even we can add some adcom part in the activities as well, because maybe student is doing practical part well, but he may need some repetition or remedial in adcom part. So the teachers will decide which are the activities which are needed to accomplish the selected competencies. It can be one activity for some competencies. It can be more than one activity for some competencies. Even this also should be kept in mind that at home component can also be added as separate activity. So our second point was deciding activities for the competencies selected, because these activity will lead acquisition of the competencies, and these activity will also be listed in one separate column of log table. So this was our second point. Third point is, what is the level of achievement that determine successful completion of activity? That again teacher will decide. Suppose he is able to perform the activity well under supervision. Suppose we have taught the student blood pressure and now he is performing the blood pressure up to the satisfaction of teacher in the lab, we will say is that he is meeting the criteria. So on the basis of that, maybe whatever, we can use the checklist, or we can use the direct observation, or we can use, or we can see subjectively, but we will decide, yes, now this student has achieved that activity or the competency, and based on achievement we can reward the student. This will also go a separate column in the logbook. His achievement can be labeled as meeting the expectation. Suppose he's performing up to the level of teacher's satisfaction as per checklist or without checklist, we can write M in that column. Even some student can exceed the expectation, then we can write E. But at times student may perform below the expected level of performance. His or her performance may not be up to the level that we want. In that case, what can be done? So in this column or in this point, we will check whether the student has achieved that activity or competency or not. And as per achievement or our judgment, we can decide it is B or M or E. B is below expectation, M is meeting expectation, and E is exceeding expectation. Sometimes we may need to include all these in internal marks or so. In that case, numerical score can also be decided and can be given. So if needed, numerical score can also be given. So this was our third point regarding level of achievement. We will decide. We can check by checklist or subjectively or direct observation or other method, and then we can decide it is B, M, or E. Sometimes if needed, numerical score can also be given. And the fourth point in the process, what if competency is below expectation? So it's okay not to be okay. So what? We are having something to correct it. So we can ask for repetition or we can ask for remedial. So we can write in separate column either R for repetition or we can write RE for remedial. Repetition, of course, we will say is that it looks that particular step is not up to mark. So let us repeat the skill and he may able to do in the second time or third time. In the remedial, actually, we introduce some teaching learning activity. Maybe he will see some video or some peer teaching or interaction with a teacher again to fulfill the deficit and then he will perform. So in the remedial, some teaching learning activity need to be reintroduced to correct the deficit. So if a B comes in the third point below expectation, then in the fourth point, we will decide that it is repetition is needed or remedial is needed. But if it is exceeding expectation or meeting expectation, then it is completed. We will write C, that is completed. Finally, after repetition or remedial, in each and every competency, finally completion or C should be there. These things will be repeated in the log table. So I hope it will be more clear. But these 4 points are the processes. Selection of competency, point number 1. Selection of activities, point number 2. Deciding level of competency. Whatever method we decide, it will be below meeting expectation or exceeding expectation. And in case it is below expectation, repetition or remedial is done. Otherwise, it is completed and C. And after repetition and remedial, it will continue till C or completion is not achieved. So this is the whole process of logging the competencies. Selecting competencies, selecting activities, deciding level below meeting or expectation, and then if below repetition or remedial. So this completes our second objective. Third objective is using log table and documenting, but many things you will find are basically repetition. So hardly anything new. We will just see how this log table is being filled. So let me show this. This is the log table having actually 8 point. Yeah, but 6, 7 is missing. So this is 8-point table. Let's see a point for column number 1. So whatever competency we have selected, that competency number is written, say spirometry or say peak expiratory flow rate or respiratory system examination. Here we can write activities. It may be a single activity for single competency or it may be a multiple activity also for the single competency and which date this activity has been done. So first 3 column, they are very simple. That is documentation of competency, documentation of activity or activities and which date those activities are done. Let's see now next three columns, which basically we have done in the previous objective also. So attempt, if he complete in first attempt, we will write F. Otherwise, we will write repeat or remedial as we discussed. So in this case, suppose he's activity attempted in first attempt, it is a first attempt, then we will write F. And then as per our achievement criteria, we will write either below expectation or meeting expectation or exceeding expectation. So that we will write. For example, here it is B, means below expectation. So if it is below expectation, the next column either repetition or remedial come. Otherwise, we could, if it is meeting or exceeding expectation would have been there, we would have been wrote completed. So finally, complete the competency. So let's see how ultimately it goes. So look, because it was below expectation, then repetition was given, feedback was given, and after repetition, ultimately, look, it is repeat. Ultimately, in the next repetition, the student is able to meet expectation and competency is completed. For some student, it may be completed or C may come on the very first attempt also. For some students, it may come later on in form of repetition or in form of remedial. And in these cases, constructive feedback also play a huge role. So our last columns are repetition or remedial or completion decisions. Here we can write name and date of a teacher, and here feedback for the learner. So this is the whole how it is being filled. So we are having this log table given by designed by MCI, which we can use for those practicals. We can also enter whatever ATCOM domain is assigned. Suppose in this case, in this year, we have taken physiology department in our college has taken this ATCOM module, 1.3 doctor-patient relationship. So that also can be logged. The date can be written. We can be a little liberal in terms of assessing this domain, observation, attendance. These may play a big role as far as assessment is concerned, and a student is meeting the expectation on the very first attempt, so competency is completed. So every competency finally aim is completed. The completion can be on the very first attempt or completion can be after repetition or sometimes even remedial may be needed. So these are the simple things how this log table can be filled. So I hope that again some competency may have more number of activities. So for example, a blood pressure, we are having a competency here, and number one activity may come, number two activity with the same competency number may come. So activities may be multiple also at times, and entry may be increased. So for example, we have selected say 13 P competency and say 2 SH competency. So 15 competency we have decided to log. So 15 competency, the activities may be in some competency 1, some competency 2, activities may be 30 or 35. So we should also keep feasibility in mind, because some colleges are having more number of staff and facilities. Some college may not have. So here also deciding the activity, we should keep feasibility issue always in mind so that documentation part does not become too heavy on student. So that also we should keep in mind all the time, that it's for quality of learning, it's for learning outcome, and the clerical work or the documentation should not take too much toll. Of course, to an extent it will increase, but then it is paying its dividend also. They clearly come to know which are the competencies par excellence that they will need always in their life, and they are focusing on that. So definitely they will, student will value it, and they will see that yes, whatever we are doing is having the huge utility, it's priceless. So that also we should ensure. And finally, we are having how we can differentiate between logbook and portfolio. So let's define portfolio and compare it with logbook we have learned. So again, to define portfolio, again, Rancho and Chatur should come as far as definition is concerned. So look, a very big definition of portfolio, but let me tell first this small definition. In fact, in this definition, I have to reduce the font also to fit photo and portfolio definition together. But what is the, it is first of all, it is linked with, portfolio is linked with logbook, and it has evidences of learning. Whatever activity is done, whatever competency is done, it's number that it is being done on this date. This is recorded on logbook. But then evidences of learning in form of assignment, in form of assessment, in form of reflection, in form of narration. A student is writing his narration. Yes, that in the process of taking blood pressure, these were the sequence of event. These were the sub activities. If that he or she is narrating or writing in form of reflection, that part become portfolio. So if we compare, logbook is predominantly created by teacher. Majority of the entry is by teacher, while in portfolio majority or almost all is written by student. While logbook is mandatory for giving examination, MCI has kept portfolio desirable, not mandatory. And that's why if we are not having separate portfolio, it can exist in form of annexures or appendix in the logbook itself. आप logbook में ही कुछ पेज अलग रख सकते हैं in form of annexures or appendix, and there they can write their reflection, narration, if assignment is given, that score and their experience and all that, and it become portfolio. So while we have learned this small definition, जिसको अगर मैं गुजराती में बोलूं तो नानी definition, small definition. So let's come to now detailed definition given in the book. What we can say moti definition. So chatur definition. So we are having this complete definition that portfolio is collection of learners' progression in tasks and competencies. Progression, it is showing the progression. This activity he has done, this activity he has done. A portfolio is an evidence of events documented in logbook. It includes selected assignment, even self-assessment, feedback, which is work-placed, in training formative assessments, reflection, and learning from planned activity in curriculum. Logbooks are thus linked to portfolio. What is being logged? Its evidence of learning will appear in form of assignment or reflection or feedback or self-assessment in portfolio. So this was as far as portfolio is concerned. So this was a difference between that. We can say is that portfolio, whatever part we can allot, if you think that documentation is too much, we can allot in a logbook itself some pages in form of annexure. So that is very much possible. This is the link of MCI website where we can find, in fact, all the documents, including this logbook document, and these are in downloadable form. So that can be done anytime. So they are available. So this was the whole topic, but let me show the other parts which are very simple and you can have variation also. So some other part of logbook, simple ones. So like Dr. Richa in her college, they have listed this certifiable. Majority of them are, if you can see, P competencies, though they are logged. All are logged. So these are some performance level competencies, and all are must be logged. They must be logged because majority of them, they are certifiable. How much number of certifications are needed, they are being mentioned, and they are quite qualified to be logged, each and every of these competencies. Then we are having some non-certifiable SH competency too in the physiology. In fact, 13 are P competency, remaining are SH competency or non-certifiable competency. You can see is that certification column is vacant. And if you want, you can select, if you decide, you can select some of the SH competency to be logged. It is up to the teacher or up to the department if they want some show how competencies as well to be logged. So that is a list, not a may not be complete. I think it still look some are missing. So some of the P competencies and SH competencies. A certifiable and not certifiable word is clarified by this list. Then we are having in the module, we are having these part also, only they are guidelines that we can have name and address of college and personal details like this. You can have your variation also, addition also, and modification also. So name of student, registration number, all that, email of mobile, etc. Then this logbook certification, that this certificate, and finally it will be certified. Some are really asking, is the dean should be also involved? कितने जर्नल या लॉग बुक या पोर्टफोलियो डीन सर साइन कर पाएंगे सो दैट आल्सो इज अ कॉल बट some official authority, at least head of the department, should be signing it, and faculty and name. So this is a sample logbook certificate. And look, it is involving other new elements as well. So they have shown this first year, first phase logbook, and that is combined. So all subject, if you see 6 number, 7 number, and 8 number, then we are having these all three subjects, and then other are new element. So we should have a place for new element also, and they also need to be logged. Selected competency of foundation course, adcom competency, early clinical exposure, integration, sports, extracurricular, whatever experience they are having, we can ask them, we can log them, and then we can also ask them, some of them, to carry into the portfolio in form of learning experience. So subject as well as new element should be logged and should be carried in logbook, followed by some of them, selected of them, into portfolio as well. And there will be a final summary in which, of course, status should be complete to get appear in final examination. So they have shown phase wise this logbook in which all the subject, all major subject in which examination is taken. Of course, community medicine also there, but examination is taken of anatomy, physiology, and biochemistry. So they appear, as well as all new elements. So this was final summary. These are some parts or sample parts of logbook which can be there. You can have your modification also. This is just an experience I am sharing. I keep on going in the many workshops, CISP workshop, in CISP 1 also, 2 also. I am a co-convener since the last 6-7 years. So many a times I go in the workshops, and often it says that it is not possible in our institute. हमारे इंस्टीट्यूट में ये कमी है, वो कमी है, इसलिए ये नहीं हो पाएगा, वो नहीं हो पाएगा. काफी टीचर्स का रहता है, वो सही भी रहते हैं. So, but if you see, I mean, these all new changes actually are mandatory. Otherwise, our curriculum was so outdated, इतना ज़्यादा पुराना हो गया था, that possibly selected colleges in our country eventually would have been eligible to give international exams. फिर तो ऐसा हो जाता है कि हमारे कंट्री के 50-60 कॉलेज के स्टूडेंट ही प्लेब दे सकते हैं, एमएलटी दे सकते हैं. And can we think that situation? So it was a high point, in fact overdue, that these changes were needed. But then we should take our college, our city, our country like we take ourselves. हम में भी तो कई कमियां होती हैं. We are having so many weaknesses. In spite of them, we keep on working on them, and especially we work on our plus points and excel in the life. Why the same thing or the concept or the attitude cannot be kept for our department, for our institutes, and we will find way to implement it effectively and subjectively. So ये दो लाइन है, just क्योंकि online थोड़ा monotonous हो जाता है. So I hope you will not mind. So these just 2 lines. मेरा अपना फलक है, मेरे अपने सितारे हैं, मेरा अपना तूफान है, मेरे अपने किनारे हैं, मैं अपने रब का बंदा हूँ, अपने रब का बंदा हूँ. So अगर मेरी जिंदगी में तूफान है, तो मेरी जिंदगी में किनारे भी हैं. हमारे इंस्टीट्यूट में, हमारे डिपार्टमेंट में अगर कुछ वीकनेसेस हैं, तो कुछ प्लस पॉइंट भी होंगे. उन्हें एक्सप्लॉइट करेंगे, वीकनेस पे काम करेंगे, एंड ऑफ कोर्स वी कैन डू समथिंग रियली ग्रेट. एक और भी चीज है, डॉक्यूमेंटेशन स्पेशली इस टॉपिक में बढ़ने का चांस है, तो वहां पे भी हमें ध्यान रखना पड़ेगा. मे बी वी कैन कंसाइज द एक्टिविटी, वी कैन फाइंड सम वे, एंड एज पर फिजिबिलिटी वी कैन मेक द एटमॉस्फियर where it's not happen that it should not happen that our students are just wondering about to get sign up with this teacher, sign up that teacher, and learning outcome or acquisition of activities or competency takes a back seat. So we should take care of that, and we should take care possibly mental and physical health of our student also. उस पे भी एक आई रखनी चाहिए. I mean ये भी एक है. बहुत ठंडे ठंडे है राहों के साए, बहुत ठंडे ठंडे है राहों के साए, धड़कते हैं दिल कितनी आजादियों से. So we have to ensure that हमारे स्टूडेंट की दिल भी आजादियों से धड़के. They should feel happy and healthy, and if not happening, we should do something for that as well. So this was just a little on the way message, and that was my whole talk. Thank you so much. And coming back and questions over to Dr. Richa and Dr. Chinmay.
Can I add one or 2 points here, Dr. Neeraj?
This is
Yeah. I think this is a document for formative assessment, and Dr. Neeraj has brought out all the important points, and I think things will be very, very clear to everybody. There are certain points at the end, like the extracurricular activities, and we've seen that there are certain students who are really, participating in a lot of events. And if we build that into the logbook, I think it will be really important, because otherwise, whatever their achievements are, they are never logged in or never added to the internal assessment. Number one. Number two, when we talk about the numerical scores, if the numerical scores the university or the institute wants to add up in the internal assessment, then we need to add the numerical score. Otherwise, we don't need to do that. As far as certain subjects are concerned, for example, community medicine and medicine, which go through different phases and different professional years. So either we build the community medicine into the different phases or different years, or if the institute decide, we can have the community medicine or medicine which runs through many years as a separate logbook that the institute can decide. Then there are certain courses in the foundation course, like the BLS we take in the foundation course, which again is a certifiable competency. So these sessions can be built up in the foundation course and certified there as such and put it into the logbook. And there are certain activities or competencies which may be documented in the portfolios or may not be documented in the portfolios. We can build a separate column of remarks at the end of the scoring or the log book page that you have seen. So if the faculty wants to give a specific remark to certain students, we can build that up. And also, if we want to keep a few pages of reflections, that what happened, what next, and so on, that if we want, we can build it up. Again, as Dr. Neeraj said, we can, really increase the volume of the logbook, and of course, the extra workload for students and the faculty. So we have a narrow path to trudge. That's it
yes,
from my side. As of now.
I definitely think we should have a very delicate eye to keep a balance between how much activities we want to log. And I mean, it should not happen that in place of acquisition of competencies and activities, it's leading to mere pile up of documentation. But yes, all these new elements need to be logged. Otherwise, like they are not done, eventually it happens, and they are likely to be taken very lightly.
Question answer round, I think. Open for Dr. Chinmay.
Dr. Chinmay can start, or Dr. Richa also mentioned to share something. So
Neeraj.
that part.
Yeah.
So first of all, let me show you one of the logbook which we have tried to prepare for a pathology, as now we are moving towards the second professional year. So I will try to stop sharing your screen, so and I will start sharing my screen.
My slide has gone.
Okay. So meanwhile, sir, you can answer. I will manage the presentation. Meanwhile, you can plan. Answer that it is not compulsory to have repetition or remedial, and what is the difference between both of them in a form of time duration. That if repetition is there, is on the same time duration or same class, remedial is in same class or different class. So please explain the difference. Meanwhile, I will share.
So as the name suggests, repetition is basically the student is attempting again, and remedial is basically when a student or the teacher think is that some form of learning, additional learning activity will be required. It may be peer teaching, it may be interaction with faculty or seeing some video, but then some learning activity or additional teaching will be required before the student will attempt that activity again. As far as time duration is concerned, it depends upon local feasibility. You can do the, if time permits, uh, repetition at the same time, or you can keep it, say, next rotation or find the way. So feasibility, as per feasibility is the answer as far as time duration is concerned.
Also, I have one point to add that one repetition has to be in place before the next remedial measure is is planned out. So at least students should repeat the competency once before remedial measure should take place.
Yes.
Okay. And so it means that if the remedial is there, he has to learn also and then perform. And in repetition, he should directly perform.
Yes,
Can we
Yes.
yes,
say in nutshell?
yes, definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the questions are on the screen now.
Yeah. For
So we have tried to
repetition,
thank you for.
yeah.
Yes, ma'am. Please go ahead.
Yeah, for repetition, I think the self-directed learning comes into play. And for remedial, of course, the teaching learning modalities again has to play a role. That's it.
Okay. Neeraj sir, can you see the questions on the screen?
What I am seeing is by department, faculty, something like this.
Logbook should be department wise or phase wise. That you already answered.
It,
Uh,
it can be both.
Chinmay, can I say something?
yes,
Hello?
please, ma'am. Mathangi, ma'am, please.
Chinmay, one important thing that we are required to teach our students is both is either logbook or if even if they maintain portfolio, there is a need to teach them how to do reflective writing. So before you proceed, or actually we have done half of the things already, but ideally it should be taught to the students initially only because they don't know how to do narrative writing, how to do reflective writing. So that is
Yes,
one need the students need to be taught. Like
yes,
if they go to what's in ECE or if we are taking them to community in the hospital setting part of this ECE, they need to know what they are supposed to write because our student is a 12th pass student. He doesn't understand all these terms, right?
we should teach. We should guide
Yeah,
them, teach them, definitely.
yeah. Yeah, and see the most of the questions which are there in the question box, mostly they are dealing with whether we should have same logbook for this. All these options, as remedial or इसमें कितना distance होना चाहिए, and all these options. See, MCI, we always say that implementation of everything MCI has left it to ourselves, to the institute, to the teachers. So it all depends on the feasibility options. आपके पास faculty कितनी है, टाइम कितना है आपके पास. प्राइवेट कॉलेजेस में एडमिशंस बहुत लेट होते हैं, बच्चे लेट आते हैं एज कम्पेयर टू गवर्नमेंट कॉलेजेस. So all these factors are to be taken into consideration while when we plan all these things.
And that's why so much flexibility is offered.
Yeah. So
Teacher
for
can,
every question, there cannot be answer in terms of yes or no. It all depends on us. How do we do it?
single logbook of all phases. So this all institutional decisions.
Yeah.
If it loses a logbook, should department keep a backup or I mean backup, electronic backup sort of pictures? Student
Yeah.
can also be said to keep because it's a record, and in case hard copy is being lost, there should be some backup, definitely.
Yes, yes,
They should be
definitely.
instructed that you are supposed to keep some kind of soft copy backup, a robust backup, in fact.
Uh, one last question. There was one last question related to that the clerical work of the
નેટ
faculty will
લેવાનું
increase.
તમે બંધ કરી શકશો 5-1 મિનિટ?
Hello, am I audible?
Yes, yes, go ahead.
Okay. So there was this last question about the increase of clerical work of the faculty. To
Yes.
that, I think my answer would be that it is the assessment of the students. This workload for the faculty is going to increase. That we are assessing the students every other day to certify them as, certified for a particular competency. So that amount of workload will increase, and just signing the document that he is certified won't be such a big issue as far as the log work is concerned. So I don't think the clerical work as such will increase so much, because if you are, assessing the students during the practical hours or something, then that assessment part will of course increase.
And that's why the concept of this workplace-based assessment has been came so strongly, that basically when we are with students, because of our subject specialty, we are in a position to judge the student, to assess the student immediately, informally, and that also has a value and reliability. So that also can be used. So if you see in all these new changes, a lot of times comes teachers need to train or think in form of workplace-based assessment. When they are amidst student, they can have this assessment part in their brain as well.
I think during the COVID era, we couldn't go ahead with the assessment part as given by the CBME curriculum. So the project evaluation
હલો
of this will come up subsequently. And then we can take the remedial measures and we can give the feedback and, again redesign our logbook accordingly.
Yes, true. This is some separate and extraordinary time, so needs separate measures also.
Yeah. Chinmay, can I talk to Neeraj
yes
sir? Neeraj sir is there?
yeah yeah
Yes, yes,
yeah
tell
yeah
me.
yeah please everybody is there madam, all attendees and everybody we are there.
Okay. Neeraj sir, wonderful presentation it was. I just want to clarify my doubt. Portfolios are futuristic in nature. Where do I want to place myself, say at the end of next 2 years or maybe at the end of next 5 years?
No
Is
no no
that,
madam,
it's
no
not
no no,
like
it
that?
is it is
In the
actually a documentation of what you are putting in the logbook. For example, my competency says that
Huh.
it is an analysis of ECG or taking of ECG. Then
Yeah.
the portfolio will contain photographs and every evidence that by which we can prove that whatever competency I have completed is completed. Am I right, Dr. Neeraj?
Yes, for example, take the example of early clinical exposure. Say you have done the early clinical exposure of blood bank on a particular day. So blood bank
Right.
visit on this day, it will be in the logbook. But then what he saw, what he learned, what he did, that narrative or
Mhm.
reflection, whatever we can say, it will feature in the portfolio. That is evidence of learning. And of course, this photograph and all that. So this will be show the longitudinal learning or progression of learning.
Yes. Progression of learning is, yeah.
Of course we
And
can
sir,
I foresee always कि इस तरह से आगे बढ़ रहा है student तो आगे भी अच्छा करेगा, that we can
yeah.
always guess, but it's progression of learning what portfolio says.
Okay.
Okay. So there is one more. There are a few questions. Like one question is that in physiology, our most of the skills are uh, of KH type rather than skill. Then why we are focusing more on that domain?
Because that is a weaker domain in MBBS. We are having basically we are giving so much time, especially on the knowledge acquisition. Knowledge application is relatively less, and skill domain is a bit weak, especially in the MBBS. So we need to focus at it, and AdCom domain is totally left out. So that also should be kept in mind. And That part, I mean, in our PG, if you see our PG curriculum in MBBS, it's already competency based. Lot of experiential learning, lot of this, and lesser classes. But in MBBS, there is too much cognitive load. So that part need to be focused. If you see in the CISP also, there is a skill teaching session. And even model we are adopting is Peton model, enhanced model, so
Heightened
that
model.
it will
Yes.
be there. So that we can say.
Okay. Let me clear one thing which has been asked in WhatsApp as well as here, that for foundation course and for AdCom we have to maintain the separate logbook. Now, as far as AdCom is concerned, you can have a longitudinal book which will cover from first year to final year. Uh, while subject is concerned, you can have a subject wise or a phase wise logbook, that is depend on the college or a university or the department. So there is no fix or clear cut criteria that you have to have all three combined or separate. So that is up to you and college to do. Sir, one question is ECE.
Hmm.
How to certify ECG and how to certify vertical integration?
I mean, EC early clinical exposure. If the early clinical exposure is given on a particular date, we can mention the ECE part of logbook that this session is covered on this date. And if we are assessing, we can complete the remaining part of logbook also. Just like skill, we can complete it. And what is previous answer I will add is that in fact what is example is shown in the module. They have shown just one logbook for all the three subjects, including all new element. इनने तो अभी जो मॉड्यूल में एग्जांपल दिखाया है एमसीआई उसमें तो एक ही लॉगबुक एनाटॉमी फिजियोलॉजी बायोकेमिस्ट्री एज वेल एज न्यू एलिमेंट को कवर कर रही है बट कॉलेज कैन टेक इट्स ओन डिसीजन
Yes.
And and EC, and just one thing, EC is not a certifiable competency. If you talk about EC, as far as MCI document is concerned, we don't need to certify it as such.
Yeah, but it will be in the logbook.
Yes, yes, yes. It can be in the log, depending on the institute.
Okay. And Richa ma'am, we want one more opinion from you, that what is faculty perception and student perception regarding logbook? Should it be combined or should it be separate? What is their perception you have observed?
I think the faculty wants it to be a one single document. Otherwise, and I think students would also want it. Otherwise, keeping so many logbooks, one for physiology, anatomy, and biochemistry, one for foundation course, one for AdCom, I think it will be difficult. If we can have an electronic form, it will be so much better. Then we can increase the number of pages and documentation also, and it will be there always. I mean, at the end of the day, students can have a printout of it and maintain that logbook. So we can, think about the electronic form, which will not be lost as such.
So there is one question.
Maybe for AdCom it can be a single one differently, but I think the lesser number of logbooks will be easier to maintain.
Sir, can you see my screen?
हाँ दिख रहा है पैथोलॉजी लॉगबुक
Okay. Yeah. So let me show you. This is just trial that we have here, as we have discussed in this session and described by the Niraj sir. You can see just an example of logbook of pathology we are trying, that like this college logo and what are the things we have covered. See, this is an example I am again stating. This is thought from our side, that what we have included is SDL, seminar project quizzes, a certification of practical skills, attendance record, and we are separately keeping journal of practical. You might be knowing that physiology we have our practical book already, and it contains instruction and everything, so that we have kept separately. So here this is just a preface index which contains the page number and everything, then basic pro forma, general instruction, and here you can put in your logbook, so student and teacher will be very much clear that what are the number of lectures, what are the number of small group, what are the number of tutorials, what are the number of STL, and what is the total number of teaching in the pathology. Same way we can have in a physiology. And now, see, this is the main one page. We can say this is the page which has a table which you need to be logged. Now, if you don't want to have a separate portfolio or annexation, what we did here, that after this, the number of whatever number of SDL is there, we have make page like this, that SDL topic, name of the facilitator, and summary of concept what you have learned. So this will like a portfolio. Student can paste a photograph, student can paste a summary, whatever he want to put, he can put here. So he don't have to carry logbook and portfolio separately. Okay, same way, if once the SDL is over, this is like a tutorial, seminar and integrated teaching hours, 88 hours. Now how this 88 hour came, we have deducted from SGD practical hours. So considering around 50 hours of the practical, 88 hours remains for other things to document. So that can be a tutorial, seminar and integrated teaching. So initial 3-4 pages for 88 hours, and after that again this is a one pager which has a summary of what they have learned. And same way we can do for certification of the skill. Same way we can do for the certification of skill. Okay. And lastly, this is an attendance first internal and final internal calculation like this, what we have tried to put. So I would like to have an input from Dr. Richa and Dr. Niraj sir on this also, that what are the changes can be added to this or what else can be done. Over to you, sir and ma'am.
I think I really like that concept of reflections being added. In fact, we also added a few pages for reflections. It can be reflection, it can be addition of concept map. That pages can be added after SDL or ECE or whatever. I really like the concept. I'm a little skeptical about the internal assessment part when you're, writing the marks for students and putting it as a part of the portfolio logbook. I have a little question mark because I don't know if that should be put up like as such in the logbook. Yeah, over to Dr. Neeraj.
Okay, okay.
I think I also agree there may be some pages for reflection with the three heading which MCI has suggested. And we can also give, as Madam was saying, is that they are quite new to reflection. My own
Right, sir.
experience in our institute is also the same, that it's not easy for them to write a good reflection. Maybe in couple of headings, say what next and what happened, we can guide them and we can basically ask them to write so what part in their own words. So we have to guide them, and those headings also we can put. But overall, I find that it is quite well meticulously made this logbook.
Okay, thank you, sir. Any other feedback from any participant also are invited? You can write in the WhatsApp group. So there are quite a few questions. One question is regarding we have completed AdCom during foundation course. Is it okay? Hello.
Hello.
You're asking us?
Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. That AdCom first module we covered in the foundation course. Is it right?
No, in foundation course we don't cover AdCom as such.
Right, sir.
We are having professionalism and ethics part. So we built basically a foundation to carry out AdCom modules. AdCom modules after foundation course is completed to be done longitudinally across the whole year. 5 modules.
Okay.
I think,
Right,
yeah,
sir.
what has been said is that it is better to have the AdCom modules after the foundation course, which will go longitudinally. Now, what feedback we got from students and faculty was that the foundation course was a little lengthier, and students, even though it was interesting, the students were tired at the end of the thing, basically you're writing reflections and doing the same thing. Now, this document is a live document. So I think our feedback is important as far as this project evaluation is concerned. And, this will help modify the next year's foundation course or the EdCom thing or whatever. So I think we should not keep it at this is what the MCA said. That is the feedback. These are the right places where we can, put in the work for all this.
Okay. One more question from my side. That at few places it is written, for example, blood pressure. So it was actually previously discussed, but now I think people have forgotten. So that for blood pressure it is written P multiplied by 3.
It was discussed a lot.
Yes.
Yeah, so
What?
please, sir, explain, throw lights on it. It is mentioned measurement of blood pressure in all different position, and at P certification level it is written 3. So what does it
Hmm.
mean by 3? That we have to perform
Yes.
one in
Sit.
sitting, one is standing, and one is sleeping, or all the three times. So please clarify, sir.
Yes.
What
Good question,
I
Chinmay.
just,
Very
I
good.
mean, I remember there was very long discussion on that. Finally, what concluded on this discussion, वो मुझे इतना याद नहीं है, but as I think is that there are three separate part of that practical, and each of these part should be done once in front of teacher in controlled condition. This is what I think. All three times, I mean, does not seem practical as such. But Dr. Richa and Madam can add.
What I understand is that perform blood pressure and assess students 3 times. That is what I understand basically.
Yes, Dr. Susma madam want to add something. Susma madam, you are unmuted. Please add. Dr. Susma Pandey. Okay. So same way right now, what the consensus is, we have to assess them 3 times. That is the
Yes.
main crux. Okay.
Yes.
Um,
Okay.
let me go through the questions if any are remaining.
My one query from my side. Can we include
Yeah, please.
extracurricular activities in logbook? If the
Yes, this
students are
question.
performing some extracurricular activities, gaining or winning some prizes for the various events at the national or at the state level, can it be included in the logbook?
It should be included. We have given what we call less importance on non-cognitive or non-technical skills, and this is the right time that somebody is doing well in some extracurricular activity. It should be there in the logbook, definitely. We can later on show it.
Definitely.
It can
Yeah,
be of some value also.
yeah.
High time it should be put on. I think it's high time students should be rewarded for that.
Sir, I
Then
have a
question
doubt.
was,
Sir, I have one doubt. Can I ask?
yes,
Mapping
yes,
India.
ma'am.
Sir, our students also participate in the intercollegiate quiz or some short research projects, which are also additional self-directed learning sort of a thing. Can we include these things here?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, fine. Thank you, sir.
Definitely.
Yes, it should be included. I mean, this is a
Thank you,
big
sir.
thing. It will not be documented. They have, I mean, this is the one way they can show it officially later on also. It
Sir,
should
I
be.
actually have a thing. These logbooks, can we intersperse it with our actual record itself, with after every record thing, instead of having multiple books?
Pardon?
Ma-
Can
Madam,
it
please
Yeah.
repeat the question.
can the logbook sheets come along with the record?
Which record, ma'am?
Come along
Let's
with
take
record.
if it's a physiology record in itself. At the end of it, can we have all the complete logbook?
With us like that.
Yeah,
Okay.
especially like how ma'am said, the reflective practice and other things which we are going to bring it.
Yeah.
I didn't get it
So,
actually.
I mean,
I think madam is asking that we have a practical record book of the student. So along with practical record book of the student, can we have a logbook and portfolio along with that?
Exactly, right.
Um, yes and no. Depends. Absolutely, it depends upon your institute how you want to take it forward. Uh,
Okay.
yeah, absolutely up to you because it will be this logbook is not exactly certifying the competencies. That is only one part of it. Like we are adding at module, we are adding foundation course part of selected competencies from foundation course, or we are adding the extracurricular activities that we've been talking about. So I feel it should be separate. But if we want to put certain uncertifiable competencies and have the sign of the faculty, that I think can be added to the practical.
Right.
Yes.
Thank you, ma'am.
Uh, yeah. There is one question in the WhatsApp group that if logbook sheets are added at the end of each practical session, it will be easier and more followable. So I would like to answer that question. Let's see, first of all, practical, what we are taking sessions are totally different, and in logbook we are maintaining separate thing. So after each practical there is no need of putting a page of a logbook, isn't it? What we are discussing just now, the Mathangi madam has also asked what we can do that rather than keeping two three separate books, we can just initially practical book and followed by logbook. That can be done, so student has to keep only one book. Okay, because we don't have to, when we are maintaining a practical book, there is no need to add the same practical in the logbook because we already have a record in the practical book.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, that can be done.
Yeah.
Journal followed by in the same
One
book.
more thing, today we were having a CISP and one question came, so I would like to have a feedback from the expert that in case just before exam my logbook get lost, what to do?
ये भी इसमें भी क्वेश्चन ही आया था. So that's why I mean we should encourage student to keep a robust feedback, electronic feedback. And suppose hard copy is lost, we can certify with use of that I mean backup, electronic backup part, because MCI is allowing both the things. Because
Yes,
I
yes,
think
yes.
from the
Is
beginning
it
they should be
possible for
encouraged.
students? Shouldn't it be from the institute instead of asking the student to maintain it? I think the
Yeah,
electronic
yeah,
record can all the institute maintain that in electronic record? I think.
yeah. That also
Is
can be
it
done, and
possible?
there are few. Yeah, there are few institutes who are coming up with the online logbook. We are also
Yes.
just trying on that part that we are developing one applications, and if possible, we are going to include logbook in that. And
Hmm.
same way, you can use a Google site, and all technology is available, so that can
Hmm.
be done at a low cost.
Hmm.
There
We
are
are
two
also.
people want.
Hmm.
Yes,
Yeah, please,
please go
ma'am.
ahead. No, we are also trying to
Actually,
maintain an electronic record. That is also what we are planning in our institute.
Okay. So what I request participants that those all who have prepared their physiology logbook and considering that is a best practice can share in our WhatsApp group, that also everybody can go through the different logbook and can get an insight. Over and above the MCI is the main Gita, Bible or Quran, what we consider that is the MCI document. But over and above that, we can also have our own innovations. There are two people who wants to say something. Dr. Seema, ma'am, you are uh, self-muted. Same way, Dr. Muthuswamy Rajraman, you are also self-muted. Yes,
Dr.
ma'am, you are
Chinmay,
telling something. Yeah,
yes, can we just ask the audience if they have certain, best practices that they want to share? Maybe two, three people.
yeah. Anybody wants to share their best practices can just put in the chat box or WhatsApp group also. Any of this. Uh, there is one question that logbook should be in the department or with the student.
I think student.
Neeraj sir or Richa ma'am. What is practice at your place?
It is just
I
started.
mean,
I think it
what
should be.
we have done this year, module was not there initially. So we have done this year is that what you said is that initial part journal and followed by logbook part. So it was with student only, but then eventually from next year we will look at what can be done. I think they need to keep on writing it regularly. So it logically it should be with student and department whenever want to ask, they can furnish it. This looks logically, but I welcome other comments also on this. So this is what I think. Mostly it will be with his student.
Okay. So I think, sir, most of the questions are covered. And so same way, you have a reflection sheet already posted. We have in the Google Classroom. Again, request that all people are not filling the reflection sheet. So all are requested to fill it up. We have a Google Classroom 1 and Google Classroom 2. So you can join any of it and please fill up the reflection sheet.
Also, if when you're adding to the reflection sheet, if you want to add certain practices that are in your institute, please do add that also.
Yes, yes. So I can't see any more questions. And still we are there in the WhatsApp. We can continuously discuss in the WhatsApp group too. Okay. So can we call for the day?
Okay, thanks all.
So thank you very
Thank you
much all the
all.
participants for interactive discussion. It was a very much interactive, and it should be because the session was like that only. So again, if you have still more question, please add it to the WhatsApp group. So we are closing the session today. Thank you very much. Stay safe. Stay home. Thanks
Take
all
care.
panelists. Thank you
Madam,
all.
participants, all faculties, thanks a lot.
Stay
Thank you.
safe,
Thank you all.
everyone. Have a good night.
Good night.
Good night. Good night.